time I'm 65, that's my wife doing. So.
Well, that's a whole nother story, whether your wife will let you retire or not.
But you know, and I think how retirement looks has changed.
Right.
Because there are a lot of people that retire and they go do something else.
Right, but I'm talking about traditionally. If you look at retirement in the dictionary, or you look at or develop some type of imaginary, fictional or non-fictional idea of what retirement is. I stop working. I live off of the resources that I put away in order to provide for and maintain my daily life. I go travel. I go do what I want. I go see the grandkids. I do not have to clock in anymore and/or rely on some type of income other than my retirement income, 401s, IRAs, or whatever. I don't have to rely on any day-to-day income for my well-being and my resources. That's what I'm saying when I say traditional retirement.
Well, and in that scenario, your money is working for you, right?
Right.
Based on the investments, et cetera, that you've made. So I think that is certainly that is probably the definition that most people have.
Yeah.
But the reality of retirement, I think, is vastly different.
Yeah.
I think people do retire from an organization and then they go do something else.
So
and with that, right, they may find something that pays less than they were making, but that plus, at least for the time being, Social Security can make them whole. Or this is when, as an entrepreneur, which we would encourage anybody and everybody, if you have some type of business,
do
that. And that is probably a different feeling. You know what I mean? Because you're working for yourself.
Yeah.
Not that it's easy. I'm not saying that by any stretch, but you're working for yourself, and technically you're retired.
Right.
But to me, retirement is doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
And that still may mean working.
that's
to me.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity. You have the ability to decide what you want to do.
That's a great delineation, because I asked you guys that question.
Yep.
Right? So I'm not going to skip out on answering it. So am I going to be able to retire? No, if looking at my current situation, but that's because I took my retirement and I've focused it on my entrepreneurial endeavors with beginning a film business.
Right.
So that's a good delineation of, yes, we retire from this corporate job or whatever that we W-2'd for the last 30 years, but then we refocus it on something that we want to do, wanting to do maybe simply not working and traveling. In my case, wanting to do is building a film business and making movies.
Right.
So if you looked at it strictly from a financial resources standpoint, if I had to stop working today at my 9 to 5, I couldn't retire.
Right.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying, but that's a good point that you made about retirement. Really is simply getting to the point where you're now doing what you want to do.
Right.
Yeah. And kind of what Derek was kind of alluding to earlier, I think retirement for a lot of people, and I'm just learning this in my later years, it's almost a financial tool, because when you retire from most jobs, there's certain things you retain, monetary things that you can retain, as opposed to if you just quit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, like Derek said, a lot of people, I've seen several examples of people that are usually CEO types. They'll retire from one organization, but then they'll accept a position at another one. But they still got these benefits that they retained from that last one.
Right.
And that's the financial piece, I think, that most of us just don't understand. And even plan ahead on how this, okay, when I actually retire, what's actually going to happen?
What is retirement? That's a good.
Where is this money going to actually really come from?
Yeah, that is a good subject for an episode in and of itself. Retirement, what does it mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Because like Derek said, it's different for different people.
Right.
You know?
Right. And the reality too is, a lot of people do have this idea that I can just go travel, I can do whatever, but there's also healthcare that you have to think about, right? Mm-hmm. And again, in this
Especially
day
at this-
when
at
things
this
are,
age, yeah.
when things are getting cut, you have to be able to, pay for your health care
Yeah.
in some way.
Yeah.
And so certainly retirement
Yeah.
can help with that, but you also have to remember that and factor that in.
Especially at this age where
Yeah.
stuff just don't work like it used to.
Right. See.
No.
Yeah.
It just,
yeah.
I
It
mean,
don't, you're right.
get out of bed and pull a hammy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But I wonder.
Yep.
I wonder how much, like when you go and accept these jobs, I guess it depends on the type of job. How much can you negotiate? Like, okay, when I retire, I want to retain X, Y, and Z, or do you have to be like at a certain level to do that? I couldn't go in and say, hey, I want to take a look at my benefits and renegotiate.
Yeah, probably not.
Well,
They'd be like, okay, bye.
Yeah. I
So-
think that's, certain levels and above.
That's how they
Definitely. I mean, it's a whole package, right?
Right,
It's
okay.
a whole package of pay, of incentives,
do it. Okay.
of health care, of other what you call fringe benefits.
Yeah.
So, but most people don't
Yeah.
get that.
Okay.
yeah. So most people don't get it, but where I kind of straddle the fence on that is, no matter what title we have, this is something I've always had a passion about, felt very strongly about. Sometimes the outcomes weren't as positive as I would have liked them to be, but we have the ability to determine what benefits mean the most to us,
Right.
whether we're VPs,
Yeah.
or whether we're janitors. And I'm not saying that because I think janitors are less than. I'm just saying, going into a position, I make it up in my mind that this is what I'm going to accept and this is what I'm not going to accept. And if it crosses that line, then I just move on. I don't care if you're not hiring me to be a CEO, but you know what? These are the benefits that I need this job to come with. If it doesn't come with these benefits, then I've got to go find another job. I remember, working, trying to work part-time one time. I won't name the big home improvement store that that I just wanted to pick up a part-time job.
Yeah.
I was already working 2 jobs, right? I was working full-time at Oracle. I was working part-time at Airborne Express, which became DHL. And so I was trying to pick up a third one. Wow. On the weekends, right? And they told me, this is what we need you to do, and these are the hours we need you to work, right? And I said, well, those are not the hours that I would prefer to work, and I'm looking for a part-time job to fill these hours. And they were like, well, no, then that's not what we are offering. And I said, well, I'm sorry, then I appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to go find something else.
Right.
But it was just like, to me, it was like, if I'm going to take on this responsibility, I have the right, I don't care what my title is, I'm a human being, I'm a child of God. I have a right to say, these are the things that I'm looking for this situation to provide to my life. And if it doesn't, I have to deal with, what comes of making a decision to walk away.
But that's slightly different than choosing benefits. I understand what you're saying, though, in terms of it's choosing really lifestyle. And no, not even lifestyle. It's choosing what was going to accommodate your schedule. You just said, I cannot work, from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. I just, I can't do that. Fine, great. But in terms of like benefits, they seem to be fairly defined, right?
Yeah.
Dental, vision, medical.
Yep. 401k.
401k.
Yeah, but I'm thinking the context of what it is that I'm accepting for, in return, my working for your company.
Right. But
whether they're benefits, whether it's time, whether
Right,
it's,
right,
I'm
right,
still
no,
saying
right.
these are the things that I need to improve the quality of my life. And if they're not being provided for me in this position, in this
Right.
role, then I just have to say, I'm saying it euphemistically. I'm deuces.
right. No, and
I'll
no,
go
that's
find
true.
something
Though.
else.
That is true.
Yeah.
I just really have a strong opinion about that, and I guess it's like, especially when it comes to, kind of teaching my kids. This is just me. This is my craziness, right? This is not what's meant for everyone, but teaching my kids what they're worth, what their value is. It's right. These are things that you want. Have a purpose, have a goal, have a plan, and try to align those things that you allow into your life, jobs, relationships, all of those things. Try to have those align with your purpose that you believe, you prayed on, and you feel God is allowing you to journey through. So I'm like, no, don't you? Maybe it's just my stubbornness, right? You're not force feeding me this stuff that I don't want to do.
Right.
It's like, so I'm gonna get a little personal here, right?
Uh-oh.
My cell phone that I pay for personally out of my pocket is for my use. Period. If you want me to use as his cell phone rings, right? Is that your job?
No. They know nothing. Boy.
My cell phone that I pay for and I use, that my children I've had for 20 some odd years, is for my use. If you need me to utilize my cell phone in the course of my work activities, you need to pay for it. Or you need to pay for a percentage of it. That's just me.
Well, that's fair. I mean,
That's fair, but just
because once you commingle your work with your personal, then they can get that phone.
But there are so many
It's their
corporations
phone.
out here now that fall back on this social psychology way of doing business, where cell phone uses is just the norm now.
Oh,
So
you're
if
talking
you have
about
a,
Teams and stuff
if
like
you
that.
have a cell phone, yeah,
Getting your
I'm
work
talking about
email. Getting
Yeah,
work email.
work emails
Right.
on your personal.
Yeah.
No. I will do whatever you need me to do in the course of doing my work,
Right.
provided that you give me the tools to do that work.
Right.
Right? This is my cell phone, my personal cell phone. You have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Right? But they want to get more work out of you and not pay for it. Oh,
Well, that's
you
something
got to
that-
have this multi-factor authentication and you got to
Right.
download this app
Right.
in order to do that. I'm like, no, I don't.
But that's what you got to talk about before you take the job.
Yeah. I know. I went
Because
off on
once
a
you
tangent.
accept the job, I don't think
But yeah,
you have a choice.
Yeah.
Well, there's ways you can do that. I know we're talking a little bit specifically here with the phones, but you're right.
Yeah.
Either they will tell you, and I think the way the phones have been used has evolved, because when I first started at the organization I'm with now, I had a BlackBerry.
Right.
BlackBerry.
That was a company
I used to
issue,
You old.
right? So then,
There used to be a phone, guys,
Do what?
made by a company called BlackBerry.
okay.
It used to be a phone, and it was the rage at one time.
Oh, you're educating the
so I-
audience.
I
My
worked-
bad.
I
Okay,
worked for
yes,
BlackBerry.
yes. Oh, I didn't know that.
I worked for BlackBerry for a number of years, and
I
it
did not
was
know
it
that.
was the
Yeah.
it was seemed to have been at the time the most protected and secured network available, and I loved it because as a tactile person, it had buttons on it, and it would click, and it was close. It's close to having an old push button home phone,
Right.
as
yeah.
you could.
Yeah.
So
and it was the first to have that QWERTY keyboard.
QWERTY keyboard. Yeah. So there was a phone out there once upon a time, children, called Blackberries.
And there's actually a movie about how BlackBerry came to be.
Yeah.
Very good movie. But anyway,
So that's what he's talking about. He's not talking about fruit. He's talking about a mobile phone.
a mobile phone. So we had that, and then the company changed policy, and they said, okay, we're gonna take away these phones. They gave you the option to be able to get your company email on your own phone, and they gave you a stipend.
There you go.
So you had that option.
Right.
Now, when we kind of went to that, it was like, okay, I think most people did, just went ahead and did it, right? But you're right. Now you got to download the Authenticator app. You got to download this, and that.
Yeah.
but at least they gave a stipend. Now, I should have opted what some of my other folk, work friends opted, and that was get a burner phone. Really, this, you get a separate phone and you use that for work.
Especially when you want to conceal that drug business.
No,
No,
comment.
I'm sorry. That was your question.
No comment. No comment. No comment.
No, I
That's
don't
an,
know what
that's
you're
an inside
talking
joke. That's
about.
an inside joke.
Yeah. But
I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
I'm not saying anything on
No
that one.
knowledge of any drug businesses.
But the culture has evolved, right? Corporate culture specifically has evolved. In fact, I was reading this article last week from Korn Ferry. And Korn Ferry, they are a big executive search firm, and
One of
they
my
do all this
customers.
stuff. So, but they were talking about how, especially post COVID, and now with people returning to the office full time and all that, some of those old expectations are coming back in terms of, hey, and they even did it when they started issuing laptops for people, right? Hey, I sent you an email or I Teamsed you. You have to get very clear on the understanding with your boss of how soon they want you to respond, right? Because there are some that will say, I don't care when I send it, I need you to respond. And you have to get that understood beforehand, because there is an expectation, right?
Yeah.
And especially as people, if you want to advance, if you want to be seen a certain way, these are things within corporate culture that all of these things are coming back in terms of, hey, I know it's Saturday. We're going to have a meeting at 8:00 on Monday, and I need this.
Right.
And you just found out about it on Saturday. That happens.
Yeah.
And again, if you don't respond, you're seen a certain way. And so it's
I think the younger folk kind of reject that, though.
they do.
They
I'm
don't
with the
really
younger folk.
subscribe to this
I'm with the younger folk.
always on, work style.
Yeah,
You know what
I'm
I
with.
Which again goes back to how they want to live,
Exactly.
right? And how they do or do not want to retire, or what that again looks like for them, for sure.
Yeah,
But
I'm with them on this one because I just, I'm just at that point in my life, this 50-something, point in my life where it's like, you mentioned it earlier, not to sound doom and gloom, but how many more years do I have?
We need to retire. That's why you need to retire.
Yeah,
That's why we should have been planning for
retire in one perspective, but then do what you want to do
Right.
in the other
Yeah.
perspective. So technically, yeah, I could retire, but it wouldn't be retiring in terms of not having work to do, because I'm focusing all of my attention on building my film business and making more movies, which is wreaked havoc on my personal life. But that's a whole nother story. We won't we won't get into that. But I'm with the young folk in this. I just do not feel the job has a right to encroach upon the things that I do, utilize, or focus my resources to in my personal life. I will do whatever the job needs me to do, on the positive side of legality. Right. But if it's just, to me, it's just basic business etiquette that you need me to work for you. You need to compensate me for the time or the resources needed to do the work for you. That to me, that's just basic. And the fact that we've gone away from that because we've moved towards this blending of personal and work, and when it comes to technology, and just download that app on your phone and just do this, and well, you know what, my phone is like 3 or 4 generations old, and it hangs up when I download this, so I don't want to download this. I don't want you having access to my phone, because let's not get it twisted here, right? We all are reasonably intelligent men when it comes to technology. You download an app required by your place of employment, gives your place of employment access to your IP.
right.
Period.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think it depends too on the culture you work in, your leadership.
Right.
Because our companies don't do that.
Right.
Some managers they don't do that. But again, I think before we accept some of these opportunities, we have to really
you have
get
to
a clear understanding of what is the expectation.
what the expectations are.
And then at that, because once you get in there, bro, I mean, you're gonna be subject to the laws of the land, whether
Right.
you want it to be or not.
Right, and we've all seen how things have evolved,
Yeah,
over the years, and how now you are expected to do things that in the past,
Yeah.
a different team of people would do, and
Right.
now you're expected to become the expert all of a sudden, which I know for again those of a certain age,
Yeah.
it's frustrating because
Yeah.
it's like that's not how I learned to do this, and now I got to do this,
Right.
and so you have to understand the culture of the organization, and the culture of the organization changes constantly.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
while we can try to put those boundaries in, the reality is that can hurt you at some point. And I'm not saying that you don't keep those boundaries,
Right,
but
right.
just know the potential consequences
You
of
have
that.
to deal with the consequences.
What you've done pretty much is, or what we've done when we reject some of these things is we've said, okay, I ain't gonna go but this far.
Right.
I ain't gonna make but this much.
Right.
Because they're gonna always point to
Well, you didn't do
what
this.
you don't do.
Right.
Whether it was legal or not, or required or not, they're gonna use it.
But as we talk about retirement and thinking of the future, the thing that we can all do or make sure we are doing, all of our listeners and viewers,
Worldwide.
we're worldwide.
Prestige.
We need to make sure though that we're telling our children and our young people,
Yeah.
get into your
Yes.
401k as soon as possible.
Max out.
Max out. Get
Especially when it's matched.
In addition to that, get
Yeah.
some type of high yield savings account or
Yep.
some high yield money market account.
Right.
There's so much information now regarding financial independence and financial health, and there's some, you kind of have to weed through some of the folk, but there are some very good people that I've seen on YouTube and some of the advice they're giving. So as soon as possible, that's one of the I think the gifts we can give our children.
And please, 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 please do not take any days for granted, and do not think that you're always going to be 25.
That's right, man.
5-year plan,
They're gonna do that though.
10-year plan,
You just
20-year plan. Please take, if anybody under 30 right now is listening to this, and we know they are because we worldwide.
prestige.
Multi-generational.
Prestige.
But if we don't, but they would probably say, "You didn't teach me that." What are
No,
you
we.
talking
You know what?
So
You
they can't do what they don't know.
But hey, we teaching it right now.
Okay.
I ain't your daddy. That I can remember.
Well,
Okay.
that's a different discussion.
I ain't your daddy. We are 3 strangers that happen to be 50-something and have a little bit of sense about ourselves, having gone through some things in our life, not having done everything perfectly, right? Because if that were the case, we'd be sitting on the beach somewhere doing this podcast,
Right.
sipping my time.
But that's gonna happen. That's gonna
Right?
happen.
It's
That's
gonna
gonna
happen.
happen. That will happen.
So from this point forward, if you're under 30 and you're hearing this, you cannot use the excuse that no one taught you. No one told you. Max out your 401ks. Give yourself a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year plan. Understand you're not always going to be 25. And understand that you must put some of your effort towards future preparation. Even if that future preparation is simply to go off and do your own thing
Right.
and not have to work for it. But maybe that future preparation is, like I decided to do at 55. Change, start my own business. Right?
Yep.
Not being able to get a loan. Right? For a total, a whole lot of reasons. Right? But, you decide you want to make a change in your career, or you don't decide you want to make a change in your career, but you just want to think about the future, relationships that you're in right now. Think about the benefit of that relationship to your future. Right? I know young folk don't want to hear that.
No, they not hearing you. They
Right.
done turned the thing
Think
off.
about the benefit of that relationship to your future. Now, I'll talk specifically as the dad of daughters, right? If the men in your lives are not helping you prepare for the future in making you better, to be better, to aspire to better, if all they want to do is get some ass, excuse my expression, lay up under you, right? And if you're pretty, have you on their arm, right? If that's all they want to do, rethink that relationship. Because you're going to be 30, God willing, you're going to be 40, you're going to be 45. I'm not talking about my children specifically. So, if my children are listening, please don't take it that way. If they are not helping you be better, reevaluate that relationship. Because your future is something that you are going to end up in. You hear what I'm saying? Your future, God willing, is something you're going to end up in. And so prepare for ending up where you're going to be, as opposed to simply focus on where you are at the moment. Max out your 401ks. Do some IRAs, right? Look at some business opportunities, right? Look at the relationships you're in, right? Look at the people you're involved in. When I say relationships, I'm not just talking intimate, personal boyfriend, girlfriend stuff. I'm talking about your circle of friends, right? You stay in the dark, you're eventually going to lose your eyesight, right? There's a fish out there now that doesn't have eyes because they lived for hundreds of years under the sand, and they didn't need eyes. So eventually, biology and evolution, their eyes went away. Stay in the dark, you eventually not going to have eyes to see. I need to write that down. So anyway, listen to us, folks. No excuse, young folk, to even say right at this point, no one taught me, because we're teaching you. Listening to this, you're being taught to plan for the future.
And the key is, whatever age you are where you are. You can't change the past. Forget about the past. Well, I won't say forget about it, because you remember the past, but don't let it hold you hostage. Don't let it not let you move forward. If you're 50-something and you're just starting 401k, fine, you're starting it. Start where you are today and be patient. That's why, especially, if you talk about investing, be it real estate or the stock market, the younger you start, time is on your side.
Oh, I wish I knew that 30 years ago.
Tell me about it.
Oh, my goodness.
The problem now, though, is do they trust these systems? Because a lot of the younger generations, they reject capitalism. I've seen quotes, rejecting materialism and capitalism. So I don't think the acquisition and the building of wealth they don't look at it the same way.
That's interesting.
I just from what little things I've seen and read, their attitudes are just different. I don't think they're sitting there saying, okay, I'm 25, I'm going to save until I'm 50 and then I'm going to, I don't think they look at it that way.
They want to be wealthy now.
Or they just want to be able to live now. And they don't not necessarily be wealthy, but they want to be able to go where they want to go and do things, and however they get that money, that's how they get it.
So they just, they're not like us where we were, we were taught, go to school, get a degree, work for a company 30 years and retire.
Yeah.
They're simply making enough money to provide for the lifestyle that I want to have.
Exactly. And why save it when I don't know? Look at the stock market. Look at the economy. Look at these financials. Why would I put money there and it just be gone and overnight? I'm just speculating that.
Well, I think you're right to an extent there. And they do have a tool that we didn't have that we are all still learning about, cryptocurrency.
Right.
So you're hearing
Exactly.
a lot of different alternative investments now.
Yeah.
That they are interested in. But I think too, kind of going back to Ken's point, is that to an extent, I think they feel they have a fallback, which is to come back home.
Right. Yeah.
We
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
necessarily consider
couldn't
that.
go back.
And in fact, I probably said this on here before. You know what I'm about to say, Mike. My dad told me, he said, unless you have some mental problems, you
ain't
can't
coming
come
back
back
here.
home.
Leave my key on the table.
You can't come back. And so that's been my, so that's how we were treated.
And if
I
you
think.
do have some mental problems, I don't know if I want you back home.
Right, exactly. He said we could talk about
We
it
could
then,
use
but
some
unless,
help.
he said
Yeah,
unless
yeah,
you got some mental problems, you can't come back. But I think our kids,
You're right.
Our kids know that they have that fallback and they can come back anytime. So I think that may, and I could be wrong,
Yeah.
but I think that also informs a little bit how they're acting, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
That-
Right.
That's why getting rich is not so to speak, is not as important because look what I grew up with. I would want to move back home,
They still got my room there.
Exactly.
My bed still
Exactly.
there.
But here's the paradox. We had a different, and I'm just speaking for me. When I say we, I'm obviously universalizing it. We had a different perspective in that not all, but most of our parents' generation didn't own homes. So there was no going back to anything but,
We had
in
a
my
home.
case, the projects. Well, but and like I said, most of us.
It wasn't homes like people have now, but it was a house.
Right.
Okay, no, I get that, and it wasn't.
But you're right. I agree with you.
I don't think there was a lot for our generation going back home. Wasn't
That's
a really
true.
positive.
We didn't even think about it.
We didn't think about it because
Right.
it wasn't. I wasn't going back to the project.
We figured out a way to keep our apartments and stay out of that house.
Yeah,
You know,
I didn't want to go back. It's like unless I made it, I was failing. I was on the street.
but we make it too easy for them to come back. Like say, we keep their rooms.
I think, and I think
it's
because
like-
part of that, and this is a whole nother show for someone like what's our friend at the show, the psychologist
Kevin
Oh,
Lambert.
Kevin
Dr.
Lambert.
Lambert, yeah.
Dr. Lambert that's another show for him. Is why do we make it easier for them?
I go back and forth. I heard a sermon yesterday, and he mentioned, he says, because he was using the story of Daniel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know this, but Daniel was 14 when he went to Babylon and did all of that. He was 14.
Wow.
He was a teenager,
Wow.
but he was just really solid.
Right.
He was a solid.
He was a
teenager.
mature 14-year-old.
But he was saying that how parents now, we don't use our resources to help our kids. We want them to go out there and suffer and make it hard when they don't have to, because we have resources to help them. So I go back and forth because I'm a very family oriented person. Even people in my family that I don't talk to, if they call me and need something, they gonna get it. No question, you gonna get it.
Let me hold something.
My sons, if they call me and they really need,
Yeah.
see,
Let me hold something.
see. I let you hold somebody. They gonna get it. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's reasonable, if it's not something silly and stupid, they're gonna get it. A lot of parents don't feel that way. They feel like get out there, figure it out.
But that whole question is just the context of that is just so multi-variable. I guess that's a double entendre because multi and variable kind of mean the same thing, right? Right?
Multi is a number.
Multi is a number.
Variable
meaning
means differences.
well, a number of differences.
Yeah,
right? See how I
so
did that?
That works.
Yeah.
I had to visualize it for a minute. Multi.
Yeah.
Variable.
Yes. So there are a lot. I know people today that have parents that are like, I didn't have it when I grew up, so you don't need it. Right. But then I have other parents, the same age, the same generation, have a different perspective and say, because I didn't have it, I want you to have it. So, where's the
But I think
balance?
you got to figure what is the thing that you're giving. I'm not talking about just showering your kids with gifts. and
No, but
things
I'm
like
talking about
that.
anything. I didn't have love, so I'm not giving
my
you
God.
love. I didn't have money, so I'm not giving you money. I didn't have education, so I'm not providing or paying for your education. I didn't have it,
Wow.
so you don't need it.
There's parents out there that
Yeah, man. I talk to folk like
That's
all the
mean,
time
man.
like that. But then there are other parents that are, because I didn't have it, I want you to have it. Where do you draw that balance?
See, I'm thinking more in terms of like, if I'm a manager at Walmart, I got a kid struggling, he ain't got no job. I'm gonna give him a job.
Yeah.
But I know people who are in positions to help their children professionally, and they won't do it.
Right, because they didn't have it, so they're not going to give it.
But what sense
Or-
does that make?
It don't make any sense to me.
Well, it is a balance.
It is multivariable.
Because it is multivariable. Absolutely. Because
I just made up a new word. Like what?
I don't think that's a new
What did that
word.
guy? What did that guy occupant of the White House make up the other day?
I don't know.
He just made up a new word. I don't know.
I would-
Anyway,
but I think
I just made one up.
it's a balance, right? Because you do have, especially a lot of successful people that quote unquote want their children to struggle. But part of that is very much like, I always think of this. There was a book. Gosh, I wish I remembered the exact name of it, but it was by Dr. Naeem Akbar, and he used the analogy of the butterfly, or not the analogy. He used the experience, if you will, of the butterfly, how it comes to being.
Right.
Right. We know it's this ugly larva, and then it goes into this cocoon,
Right.
and then it breaks out of the cocoon to become a butterfly. Now, what gives the butterfly strength to fly is the struggle to get out of the cocoon. If you come along and help it get out, you're actually hurting the butterfly. So there's a certain level of struggle that they have to understand, because you aren't going to be there all the time.
Stop high-siding.
Broken glass everywhere.
Wasn't me.
Broken glass everywhere.
Wasn't me.
Broken glass everywhere.
Wasn't me.
People pissing on the stage, you know they just don't care.
Wasn't me.